Oh, here it is. It says the most powerful humans aren't the fastest, strongest, or most intelligent, but those who can coordinate others the best. The conductor is more powerful than the violin. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Episode 5.
It's another
full
one.
hand. That's it. A full hand of episodes now of the Francis Banter podcast. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. All the feedback that we've been getting, we're enjoying as well. So keep it coming. Let's get straight into it. It's not wasting any time. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with my guy, Francis Ngannou.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to give some context? Do you want to let everyone know what's happened?
Yeah. Those who've been watching, we spoke about him in our first episode, and we said we'd definitely revisit his story because it was a story we felt it really suits what we try to talk about. People that put their cards on the table, play chess, and wait and see it come through. I think in the first episode, we already gave a context of who he is. He's a UFC fighter. No longer a UFC fighter. He's an MMA fighter. He was signed to the UFC, and he did the unthinkable. He walked away with the title. He negotiated his contract right to the wire. And he bet on himself because if he had lost, UFC would have not wanted to sign him anyway because he got nothing for them. But he won the title. He actually retained. He had the title, and he retained the title against Sirigan, and he decided to put his negotiations, and I think his main sticking point was he wanted to fight for the small guy in his contract. He wanted to introduce like a guarantee for smaller fighters, people that doesn't draw as much. He wanted more of a union style within the UFC. And UFC wanted to give him more money to stop him from asking more stuff.
More money for everyone else. Yeah.
For everybody else. And he said, no, thank you. If you can't give me those things. And he wanted to bring his own sponsors into the sport. Not only him, he wanted fighters to be allowed to bring in some of their sponsorship into UFC because UFC doesn't allow you to have your own sponsors.
It's only Reebok, right?
Yeah, and then on the shorts you can't put anything. Like they have their own sponsorship, like Monster and all these other ones.
Right. Yeah.
And when did he last fight? Was it December of 2021? No. Yeah, he's been out for more than a year.
Oh, is that been that long?
Yeah, he hasn't fought. He didn't fight. Oh, January 2020.
January 2022. Yeah.
So he hasn't fought for like maybe 16, 17 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was out there as a free agent looking for someone to take him on. He also wanted to do boxing. That was one thing he wanted from UFC, and they said no. And he was out there trying to find a contract, and I think there's a few that could really make a statement and take him. I think there was PFL, there was one, and there was Banter. I think those are like
the three others.
The three others, and Banter did this.
Yeah, I mean, for context, the UFC is the big fish. They're what I don't know what you compare them to. They're what Apple is in or Microsoft. They're what Amazon is. Yeah, they're the monopoly generally in the sport. They have the best talent. They pay the most. So
Yeah.
it's rare that people leave the UFC and get a better deal, or
Yes.
whatever kind of deal they
All
would
roads
like
leads to
elsewhere.
there. Yeah. So I think last week, the guy from whatever you call it, one championship.
One championship, yeah.
Yeah, he came out and he was like, he wants this other stuff, so we're gonna pull out or something like that. And then people were like speculating, he's done, he made a mistake, he should go back to UFC and whatever that is. And he teased an announcement and like on his social media to say, announcement is coming and all this. He did well because he put like some clips of people, like some tweets and stuff of people saying he's made a mistake, he should come back to UFC and all this. And he went on to sign for PFL. And the deal is ridiculous.
Yeah, proper.
Like, the deal is like, seriously, like, it's just mad. Here's what you got. He is guaranteed high 7-figure per fight.
Yeah.
That's his guarantee.
Which is not like boxing, by the way. This is a very rare that this happens in
It's very rare. His last fight, I think, in UFC, he didn't get $1 million. I think he got in hundreds of thousands.
Oh wow!
Because you remember he refused to sign a new deal. Yeah, he was on his old contract.
Of course.
Yeah, he refused to sign it because they wanted to change it, but extend by one extra fight. But he didn't want that, so he fought on the old deal, and he walked away with less than $1 million. I think in hundreds of thousands. But you have to remember in UFC, like with these fighters, when they fight, I think a certain percentage straight away go to the gym. I think 10% goes to the gym. And then certain percentage goes to your man, like your coach.
Yeah.
And then you also pay like flights and everything. Like you pay everything. You pay from your pocket. So most of the times when they get the money, 50% is gone. That's straight before like more. Or probably more. Because if they're flying to a fight, they pay for the seats for everybody going with them. So he's guaranteed 7-figure per fight. And this is the interesting part. He negotiated that the person he fights, he said he doesn't want to get high 7 figures. And his opponent doesn't get, something good. So whoever fights him is guaranteed a minimum of 2 million.
Oh, I thought it was 1 million.
And that's sick. No, it's 2 million.
All right.
No, we spoke, remember, it's 2 million. We spoke about, remember we're talking about Costa getting 1 million. And we were like, is he worth 1 million? Here's the thing. So anybody could fight Ngannou. The question is, it could be anyone. Are they worth 2 million? God knows. You know what I mean? So, and then he gets a share of each event's profit. So his fights are not going to be on ESPN because PFL is signed with ESPN on all their general fights. But I think he's only going to do the super fights. Yeah, he's only going to be pay-per-view. And that's going to be pay-per-view. So you'll get a share of the pay-per-view money. He's a big draw. His next fight, and his next fight is gonna be crazy. He's gonna draw, and he also have freedom to box, which he's gonna do first before he goes to your MMA fight. The next thing coming for him, he's actually boxing before he gets back into the cage.
I see. Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? So he said he's definitely not doing the MMA this year. MMA starting 2024. So this year is boxing. So he'll probably box someone end of the year. God knows who that is. He's looking at everybody. I think he almost had a deal with with Wilder. They said like the deal was almost done, and then Wilder pulled out. I think they were gonna do a UFC fight, a boxing, and then UFC, but he pulled out.
All right.
And then him and Fury have gone back. Yeah, him and Fury have gone back and forth. He even came into the ring, I think, when Fury fought in London or something. Like, he came in,
Yes,
and
yes, he did. I saw
that's
that.
that's on the cards. He said he'll take on Anthony Joshua if his card is free. He can take him on.
All right.
So I will have a question on that. I'll go back to that and I'll ask your opinion. Who you
Okay.
think? And then he also have freedom to sign any sponsor. So I think he can have 2 or 3 sponsors that he can bring in, because he said when he was in
That's the case.
UFC he
Okay.
had, when he was in UFC he almost had a deal. He had a deal like with one of the cryptocurrency um, companies before UFC had that crypto sponsorship. He said they were gonna
Yeah,
give
yeah,
me
yeah.
like, I think they were gonna give me like a million or something, and UFC
All
blocked
right.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, he said that's where it went south. After that, he just didn't like it. Yeah, so he can bring in 2 or 3 of his own sponsors,
These are sponsors.
and
I don't.
he also, sorry, you were gonna
I
say?
was gonna say I don't. I don't understand why UFC. I'm sure. I know they signed a deal with their sponsors or whatever. But do you not think, like, is it more lucrative for them to have all that one sponsor and charge whatever they charge, as compared to letting a fighter have maybe one or two sponsors of their own and having their own sponsors, and because if I was the best talent, right? If I was the obviously Ngannou is the heavyweight champion of the world. If I was the light heavyweight champion if I was actually the best light heavyweight, and I see Francis has gone to PFL and he's succeeding like this, what incentive do I? Obviously, UFC is the big machine, but at the end of the day, if you're only guaranteeing me maybe $500,000 per fight and another $500,000 if I win, which is like a typical UFC contract. If a sponsor is willing to pay me 500,000, 500,000, sorry, and if I win, at PFL I get 750, and then I can get a couple of sponsors, and then I have a lot more freedom in my contract. Naturally, as like the big names, one by one, do you not think one by one they'll start questioning whether they need the UFC?
I think they will. Yeah, I think this opens a massive door, because as soon as he announced, guess what? The greatest of all time is calling Francis out on Twitter and all this, which means
Oh, I didn't see that.
which means
John Jones said this?
Joe Jones is
Oh,
like
wow.
having a back and forth with him. He's like, he's having a back and forth as well with Tyson Fury now, because they're all
He
now
knows.
trying to line up behind Francis. They want to be the next fight for Francis. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
John Jones is already talking about one more fight. He said when he fight Mishik, what's his name?
It's John Francis.
The guy that I think is the greatest heavyweight guy. Mutic. What is his name? Mutic.
Stipe Miocic.
Stipe. Yeah, Stipe.
Yeah.
He's like, if he fights Stipe, he said that could be his last fight. Like that he said that would be him.
So he's basically saying that.
So he's probably setting himself up that he might fight Stipe, and then by then Francis goes and do boxing. He's available next year. He can jump ship and go off. Let's think about it. There's a guarantee 2 million minimum. That 2 million is the lowest you will get for fighting Francis.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
According to
right?
the deal that Francis fight. So which means if you're gonna get $1 million from
The
UFC, and
and
which means
that's $1 million with no sponsorships. Like as much as John Jones gets a bad rap or whatever, sponsors would love.
Oh, you bring
absolutely
sponsorship.
love.
Would love it.
They would. I love to pay them
Because
for millions to wear whatever they.
yeah, because you remember, like, I think when he came through, was he not like the first one to really be backed by, was it Nike or something? They were like really behind him.
I think it was.
like, John Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a draw. Like, he's that type of guy. He's such an idiot, but you put your brand behind him. Like, he's a winner.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
so it's a no brainer.
Absolutely.
So that's the problem, because if he say, okay, I'm gonna go over there and take him on, and then I can take 2 or 3 brands with me on my shots, Seriously? Seriously? He could walk away with that minimum 2 million, and he could also collect some more money from sponsorship. And then he also
Sponsors.
gonna get a share of the pay-per-view.
Ooh-wee. He's walking away.
You see what I mean?
If this works, I mean that's the whole thing, right? That's what this whole thing stands on. Only if this works, and I think that you know what I think is actually going to happen here. Prediction. Write this down, everyone. Write this down.
Okay, let's hear your predictions.
This is what I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
Francis is smart because he signed the contract and let everyone know early, but he's not fighting for another year. John fights Stipe, leaves the UFC, and comes and fights in the PFL. That's what happens.
Yeah,
I think that's what happens, and then it'll be the biggest fight.
Yeah, because I think UFC, the only way they can counter this, do you know how they can counter? Is by turning around, quickly go to PFL and say, let's do a joint pay-per-view.
Yeah.
That's the only way they can combat it. Then that means they put their money into John Jones, right? They put their money into John Jones and say, listen, your last fight you got 2 million or 3 million. This time we're going to give you 6 or 7 million to go and fight, right? He won't think about sponsorship at that point because it's not allowed in UFC. But at the same time, they've stopped John Jones to actually go to PFL.
To PFL, yeah.
Because if he fights his contract out, which... Oh, yeah, big time. Because they will have to match him to what Francis will be taken away. And the other thing as well, which I like about Francis' contract, is he got equity into PFL.
Oh, did he?
He got equity
into PFL. Now we're talking.
Sick.
I did not see that part.
That is sick. He got equity into the PFL, and then they made him the chairman of PFL Africa. So here's the thing: he's going nowhere. He's not even going back to UFC anymore.
Absolutely.
Because that's a lifetime. That's a lifetime agreement he just got. He's gonna be PFL Africa. He can't be a PFL Africa chairman for a few years and leave. Because the idea is to actually take PFL to Africa. He already got his foundation in Africa for UFC, for MMA.
Yeah.
And his friend Kamaru, he got the other one running in Africa as well. He got like a championship running there. So he's going to put all this together to try and bring some standard in Africa before PFL gets there. So... he can go, like, I can't see him going back to UFC. You know,
no way.
He got money in PFL. So he can go and promote another brand.
Exactly. Yeah. This might be right. This might be the smartest move that we see in the fight business in a long time. Because the UFC they were running with the show. And I think Dana being at the head of it works when you're going up. But when it gets to this level and you're dealing with someone like this and you know the fighter pay is clearly unfair and there's a big draw.
Yeah.
The biggest, strongest man in the world.
Yeah.
If he leaves your brand and goes somewhere else, whether he can talk well and all that doesn't matter. He's not Conor McGregor, we know that. But he's just the sheer power, the sheer spectacle of the biggest, strongest man in the world. The heavyweight champion is always a big draw.
Yeah. And the thing is, well, like, you know, I think he can actually take a piece. Because you have to remember, he can show up on his press conference before his fights in PFL with a UFC belt. He never lost it. He never lost it.
Right?
Yeah.
He didn't.
Have you seen his have you seen his posts in everything now? His hashtag, the one he posts the most.
No.
It's
No.
what is it? I think it's he says I think it's TG, some of the greatest men on the planet or something. The greatest motherfucker on the planet. That's his new, and he's been pushing that for a long time.
I like that.
And nobody can turn around and say he's no.
I like that.
Yeah, You can't say he's no, because in UFC he took the title, defended it again. He took the title from the greatest heavyweight ever, and then he defended it with the guy they were saying he's the future, and then he left, and then what's his name, the greatest of all time, come back, but people are like, yeah, but John Jones was not there.
Yeah.
When John Jones only came after he left, because they announced that John Jones was coming, because it was literally, they say John Jones is coming to fight Ciryl Gane because Francis Ngannou is leaving. Remember that announcement was done on the same time.
And I think John was trying to be smart about it as well. I think John is kind of trying to dodge. I don't think he did. I think he was very smart in dodging him.
He didn't want to fight him. I don't think he wanted to. I think he knew, because he didn't know like what he was capable of at that level.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't really know what he was capable of at that level. Yeah. And he was thinking, if he comes in and it goes like, bro, like that guy is, man, like his punch is no good.
Man, he hits you, you feel it. Boy,
what did
you feel it.
What did Dana White say? He said his punch is the power of a Ford Escort driving at some crazy amount of miles per hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, remember when he was coming through, when Dana White was still liking the guy. He said being hit by Francis Ngannou's punch is an equivalent to being hit by, I think, a Ford Focus or something like that, driving at a certain speed. Have you find it? What does he say?
Oh no, I didn't find the exact quote. That's hilarious. Yeah. I feel like Dana just made it up, but Dana.
What did he say? Read the quote. He said it on the press conference.
Yeah. He said his punches are equivalent to 96 horsepower. That's equal to getting hit by a Ford Escort going as fast as it can. Oh man!
So that is crazy.
Hilarious.
So I think I wanted to ask you something about, where was I on? Oh, if Francis was to fight in boxing, who do you think he got his best chance against between the three guys?
Wilder.
Do you think?
Because I think because Wilder's the worst boxer out of the three guys. Because okay, here's why. You see, Wilder's gonna come out wanting to do what Francis does, and all Francis needs to do is catch you. And I think he can. I think he can take more damage than Wilder can. And Wilder has to be wild at some point. He's just a free throw puncher with a little. It just happened to land in boxing. It easily could have been any fighter.
Even the technique in his punch is like proper swinging. Like it's not shots. It's like
it's horrible.
It's terrible. It's like those guys. Remember them kids in the playground that fought with their eyes closed. Yeah. Wilder's one of them.
Literally, that's how we got into boxing. Yeah, because I think obviously I think with Tyson Fury it's too.
I think the only person. Yeah, I think the only person he will lose to is Fury. If it'll be Fury.
But I can't see him losing I think to Joshua.
Nah.
But I think Joshua's a good enough fighter. See, I think Joshua used to live off being like a knockout guy, but I think he's a good enough boxer. Sorry, to get through the 12 rounds and just survive it in outboxing.
I hope so.
I think he is.
Because the thing is with Joshua, like you see, Ngannou, I don't think anybody will fight Ngannou and get to the end of it. Apart from maybe Fury get to the end because he's a big guy, so he can hug him. He can literally like sit on top of him, get him tired. I just think everybody else it'll be. You see, Joshua will be like what?
I think Joshua would have to cut. I think Joshua.
Do you think he'll do what he did? Yeah, I think he'll do what he did. I think it was against Ruiz the second time round. He came and he boxed him. Yeah, he just came and he I think he has to do that. Yeah. Yeah, I think he was. You're right. I think he was carrying less weight as well. Like he just came and he just boxed him, and took him all the way and just outscore him. I think that's the only way he can win against Francis Ngannou.
Yeah,
Like just
absolutely.
outscore.
He's not knocking him
But
out.
here's the other thing as well with Ngannou, which is I think other people underestimate. He's a boxer before he is an MMA fighter.
Yeah, but he doesn't have clean technique though. He's not Tyson Fury boxer. You know what I mean?
No, of course he doesn't. I don't think anybody in heavyweight has Tyson Fury.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Boxing. I think that's like that's unfair to compare anybody in terms of like movement and boxing ability for any heavyweight to Fury. Like, he's just different. He's just different. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think when you look at all the other ones, like right now, like you look at those guys in the top 10, you know, you look at that, like Joshua, Wilder, Chisora, like, what's his name? There's another British guy, he just got beat.
Dillian White.
My guy. Dillian White. I was thinking of the other guy. There's another Joyce. Something Joyce.
Right.
And then, that guy, like, if I have to, you know, like when people ask you, like, which boxer would you want to travel with across the Atlantic? Sitting next to, I'll sit next to you. I find it very interesting. Do you remember before he fought Joshua? No, not Joshua. Fury. He said, "Listen, I'm from Peckham." He said, "Peckham is the place your people lives without their metal." You know, like the scrap metal people in the corner. He said, "Where I'm from, your people live without their metal." So he said, like, "We'll romp you." I was like, even when he said about Anthony Joshua, before he fought Anthony Joshua, he said, like, Anthony Joshua, he's well spoken. Gangster or something like that. He's a well-spoken thug. But he's well-spoken thug, which is amazing. So we'll see how that goes. I'm sure this one will keep coming back because it's the money that is sitting on these guys. It's amazing, and I like to see sports people getting paid. Like absolutely. I'm for them being paid. Like I love it when a sports pays.
I think every sports version is highly undervalued. I mean, across pretty much every sport. I don't think there's a single sports person who's been paid what they're actually worth. So seeing someone call their shot and make a move like this is pretty cool.
Which is amazing, What you got? Let's see
what do I have? Let me take a look. I will. This might be a short one, but I've recently started listening to Producer Ben's podcast. You know, Producer Ben from.
Oh yeah, I haven't started listening to his.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's called How to Take Over the World. So it's essentially just sums up the excuse me. It essentially sums up the life of some of the greatest like leaders in history. So I've listened to Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar. There's got a few people, but he doesn't only like. I think I'm listening to Napoleon right now, but he doesn't only stick to that. I think he's done like Putin, and it's not always like war type of people. I think he's also done what's this famous painter, Da Vinci and stuff like that. So he basically kind of just looks into their life, sees what kind of makes them great, what made them take over the world and go down in history. You know, these are people, we're talking about people who lived hundreds and thousands of years ago, and we still speak of them to this day, which is. I mean, there's not many people. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. But it was interesting just to see like some of the lessons that you can take from these people is very fascinating, because you quickly realize that a lot of these people are kind of in their day and age lived just the same life that we live, but really really narrow down on what life is to them, and the same lessons that they used in like, essentially what was war back then is exactly what people use in business, or you can use in business in this day and age. So obviously a very popular one is Marcus Aurelius, who was a general, I think Roman general, but he's known as the father of like Stoicism, which is people like Ryan Holiday have made a living off it, and he has a book called Meditations, which is one of the few books I've actually read and not listened to. Well, also listened to, I've actually read quite a bit of it, and it's kind of like, it's interesting because his life, well, his book was actually notes to himself. It was never meant to be published. What he would do is after each day he would sit down and have whatever 10-15 minutes to himself and write down the lessons he's learned from all the people that he's met in the day. And it might not have been anything crazy. It might have just been like, it's good to remind yourself that to stay humble or whatever, or this woman did this today, or this guy did this, and then there are notes to himself, and then he just kept it as a file, and someone found it after he died and published it, which is quite incredible. But I just wanted to give you some of these the lessons and a couple of stories from the episodes I've listened to, which are quite intriguing. So, well, one that really stood out to me was Julius Caesar, when he was about 22, 23, goes over to some city. He goes to one of the city, and there's an Alexander the Great statue there. And he walks over, sees Alexander the Great statue, and I think he's like 23, 24 at the time. But he goes, sees it, and it bursts into tears. But at this age, he wasn't like the guy that we know, this great emperor or whatever. But it bursts into tears when he sees the statue. And obviously people are looking at it like, okay, what? And he tells his men, and he says, by the time Alexander the Great was like 23, 24 years old, he'd already taken over 3 or 4 countries, and I'm sitting there, I've done nothing. And this was like a crazy moment in his life. Imagine just you imagine you work for a company. Let's put it in 2023. Imagine you work in a company and you and your boss go to you go on a field trip to London or something, and he sees like a statue of whoever, and he just bursts into tears. You would be thinking, okay, I don't know what's happened, but he's having a long day.
I'll see an image of Zuckerberg on Twitter. I'm like, damn.
By the time he was 30, he'd already built Facebook.
I'm like, I'm wasting time.
exactly. But that's known as like a pivotal moment in his career or whatever in his life that kind of changed, put some urgency behind him. But one of the interesting things actually that's just maybe weird, or I don't know why it links in any way, but they were all very small eaters. They didn't eat a lot of food. Like all of them, pretty much every single person that he's gone through, I've listened to, every single one of them is noted that they were little eaters, which is fascinating because these are people who are right. It's fascinating, right? Because these are people back in the day who had everything. They they could give it everything, but they chose to eat, which might be something just to think about. Just maybe people who operate well. You probably operate with this. There's probably like an instinctive thing where you operate well on like a slightly empty stomach.
Almost empty. Well, it's like, what do they say about comedians? Starving artist or something. You know, you wanna be like close to those difficult times. It makes you, get you inspired. So they just.
There you go.
I'll be eating.
So maybe there's something to that. Yeah, I definitely will be. Yeah. One of the the topics that also was pretty consistent between them is that these people move quickly. So, in various different ways, I think Alexander the Great was known as as a tactic to move very quickly. Like, so, regardless of how much bigger your army was compared to his, what he would do was always he was actually very smart. He always put maybe like 70% of the army to go to fight quickly. Like, he doesn't give you time to prepare, blah blah blah. He goes and attacks quickly. Not the strongest people. He has like his second and third strongest sections of the army go and fight and get in there quickly. And then once the battle's gone on for a while, his strongest 30% then comes and finishes off the fight. But they always move quickly. Like, he always move quickly. He made a decision. He said, "Listen, I'm gonna go conquer here, quick." Julius is well known as well. He says, "Look, I'm gonna go do this, quick." So I think it's one of those things like which can easily relate to business. I think giving yourself that sense of urgency is such a. I'm sure you know, like when you're under pressure, you get stuff done.
Yeah, and that's when things get done.
All right. And I think giving yourself almost like a false sense of urgency is something that I want to practice within myself. Give myself personal deadlines. Saying that, listen, I start something today, get it done by tomorrow, or I don't know. Yeah, it's hard, right? It's hard just in general life to kind of give yourself to keep yourself to those deadlines. But yeah, I think almost I find like maybe like a punishment for myself, or a reward for completing things early. and use that as maybe, and I might try that out over the next few weeks and come back on the podcast and feedback how it works, because I think there's something to that urgency. But there was one final quote I had written down here, and here it is. It says, "The most powerful humans aren't the fastest, strongest, or most intelligent, but those who can coordinate others the best. The conductor is more powerful than the violin." And this is I heard this quote, and I think Ben himself said this quote.
That is good.
And I was just like, wow. And I was and you sit and you think and you realize it's very easy in this game to be. I want to be the best executor. I want to be the best marketer. I want to be the best at this. But the one who's really winning is the person who allows themselves, who firstly understands, has the humility to understand that I'm not going to be the best at everything in this business, and finds the best and finds a way to motivate the best. And I think that's how you build the biggest business. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's how you do it. Like, there's no way Bezos or Musk or whoever you want. Wow, okay. There's no way Bezos or Musk or
that's passion.
That must be what it is. For those who listen, I just knocked over my microphone. Anyway, there's no way like Bezos, Musk, even Zuckerberg, or any of those guys are the best engineers or the best executors in their company. I think these are kind of people who find the best and find a way to motivate the best.
Yeah.
The conductor is more powerful than the violin, isn't it?
Yeah, that's really good. It makes you think.
Right? It really sums it up so perfectly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, that was just a quick little segment from how to take over the world.
That is very good. I think
pretty good podcast.
You need to listen. I'll probably end up listening to Producer Ben, because I knew you started a podcast on that, but I haven't actually got myself to it.
Checked it out, yeah. Pretty cool. And I knew you'd like that, because I know you like. You like to listen to how I built this and stuff like that. So
yeah. Those are I always like to know, like, sort of like how things sort of like came about and what thought process people had, and the things that happen, which is sometimes not even like part of the achievement the person had, but sometimes it can be seen as the person was already on the way to that when they were doing the, like you're saying there, like someone seeing a statue and feel like they're behind the schedule.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's something
crazy.
as simple as that. That person was already thinking, like, I haven't got time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's, to me, that's amazing. That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's like LeBron leaving. What did he skip? I don't understand the system in America. What did he skip? Did he skip college and he went straight to the NBA? What did he skip?
Oh yes, yeah. So basically, in the rules slightly changed now, but basically you can go from high school. Well, back then you could go from high school straight to the NBA, which is you're basically like 16, 17 years old. But the rule normally is that you finish high school and you spend a year in college. Most people do a year in college and you play the college game because, you know, basically college athletes don't get paid, but they televise it. They make a hell of a lot of money off the college. A hell of a lot of money off the college game.
Modern day slavery.
Yeah, pretty much. So they basically you kind of force all the athletes to go to college. But back then it's like LeBron skipping college and going straight to the NBA. It's just one of those moments, right?
Kobe did the same.
But yeah, I think. But Kobe was Kobe was from Europe, so it works kind of different. Well, Kobe's Kobe's from all around the world, so it works kind of different.
It's from everywhere. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. Yeah.
Okay, what else do we have?
What should we hit next? My camera's showing 5% here, so.
Huh?
I'm hoping nothing. So my camera's showing 5% over here, so I hope it doesn't mess up.
Better not.
We can go. We can do one more. We can do one more, even if we just do it nice and quick.
What could we do?
What do you think, June? Do you want to do one of yours? One of mine?
This mine one will not be a quick one. This is not quick.
All right, okay. I think this is significant, so I think maybe save that for maybe the start of the next episode, because I think we'll probably
it's definitely not quick, because it's like an intro and then break this down and then this is the story. So
okay, what about this biohacking stuff? We can just do this. Talk quickly. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I want to pose you a question. This is not really mean. I want to pose you a question. There's a lot of like woo-woo stuff in business, you know. There's the tangible stuff, but there's also a lot of like, you know, people come and what's the guy, the speaker that everyone knows? You know, the guy, he makes you walk on hot coals and I'm forgetting his name. Oh my god.
How do we forget him? He's
oh my
Tony.
god.
Is it Tony Robbins?
Yes, Tony Robbins. Yeah.
Tony Robbins, yeah.
That's it.
I was like, how do we forget his name?
Right? Yeah. There's a lot of people who, I mean, business is kind of split into half, like, you know, tangible, buy this product, you know, market it this way, that kind of thing. But then you also have a lot of, you know, maybe some not so tangible skills, but maybe are also important stuff like, you know, how to keep yourself motivated, reading, which is there near here or there, meditating, food, diets, making lists, organization, that kind of thing, and all these kind of biohacking things. And I want to know, firstly, do you have or do you do any of these? And secondly, do you believe they work as much as people say they do? Or do you think they work at all?
Okay. Just to give like a little background. I know biohacking is sort of like, I don't know if it's just like more ingesting or it's enhancing of your body to try and enhance
and optimize. So so it's essentially, I think biohacking is a combination of both. So biohacking is taking something or doing something that allows you to perform at the highest level. Sometimes it's like, people take Adderall, all this stuff, but also it's like meditating can also be counted as biohacking because it gets your mind in a space.
So for me, I think like most things, like I subscribe to most things, but to a level, whether it's religion or business, whatever. I always subscribe, but I always find my limit. Do you know what I mean? I think the only biohacking people need is you eat well, you sleep well, and you smoke weed. You are good. That's what you need.
Wow. The worst advice coming from this podcast.
No. Okay. Less weed. I think there's things about biohacking that I think is just like everybody biohack, because when you really look at it, if your diet is good, you're biohacking, but there's the next level where you start to drop a little bit. Then I don't know. I'm one of those people who I don't take shit. I don't take anything. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I don't actually like I'm very, I like to be conscious. Like I'm very, like when people talk about like mushrooms and stuff like that, would you not? I'm the guy who won't. Yeah, it's because I'm very, like I'm always afraid of sort of like going over anything. Like I like to be just there. You know what I mean? Like, because I've seen a bit where people do take like different chemicals and it opens up your brain and you become like a genius.
Unlocked.
My fear is, I don't want to, like, my fear is if I unlock myself and then I just go further than I need to. I don't know. It's too unknown.
Too much risk.
So I wouldn't. Yeah, I think further than diet and just a lifestyle, there's a few things I would take on. The basic things. Like meditation and sort of like just to try and get my mind right and like nothing major.
Right.
Like I don't know about you. Like you are the guys who would go to ayahuasca and shit.
Absolutely not. I've always thought I think these drug things are for people who are lost. I think people who don't know their purpose or what. I've never been. I need to make money. I've got a family to feed. I've got a mom. I've got I've got things to do. I'm not lost. Trust me. I know exactly what I need to do. So these drugs have never been for me. But I think. I think like meditation. I've told you I've started doing it recently, and it really helps. Like I get migraines quite a lot. Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
actually, I'll join you when it works.
When it works, you know what? I find myself being able to focus on tasks a lot more. I think generally when I work, I jump around a lot. Okay, I'm doing this. Oh, I need to do this. Okay, jump, and it helps me. I've only been doing it for a few weeks, but it helps me when I'm in a flow, like a flow, and I'm focusing on one thing. I can really stay focused on that for a little bit longer. And the more I do the meditation, it's like a little bit longer, and obviously it adds up. So meditation, personally, is something that I never thought I would do, but yes, it's actually worked out. Yeah. I think another one of these biohacking things I probably do is like the sleep one. How to get into like deep sleep quickly. I know you can get it's like an Aura ring, I think it's called. There's one of the big brands where basically, I think it monitors like how much REM sleep and deep sleep and all the different types of levels of sleep that you get. And I think if you get like a certain level of like REM sleep, I think that's the deepest level of sleep. That helps your brain properly rest, and it helps you be nice and awake and alert in the morning, which is probably, I think, something I will. I should have already invested in, because I think that'd be quite a good one. And outside that, I think yeah, like you said, the basics like diet and that kind of stuff. All this other stuff like, you know, like all these fancy lists and all this stuff that people like to, and then all these drugs. Yeah, I don't personally think. You know, I think you're better off just finding good diet, getting disciplined. No need to get like a motivation or, you know what I mean. If you have if you have discipline and the basics of your life are right, I think the rest, everything falls into place. I don't think, you know, there's not much else that.
Because I think there is probably like a correlation between, like, because I think some people are searching, you know, like I've worked with people where you're having a conversation and they'll ask you like things where it's for the first time that I'm having to think about it. You know, like I'm very like I don't think past the obvious kind of person. Like I'm like that way. You know, if I'm gonna go to work and I get paid at the end of the month and I've signed up for it, I'm one of those people. Like I'm a brilliant worker. But if I don't wanna work, I'm out of there. Like I never stay in a job when I don't wanna be. And I'm like that with anything. Friendships, life, business. If I'm not happy with it, I just kill it. And just on to the next thing. And I think that sort of like sometimes it helps me in some way. You know, even like when people talk about like sleep, I'm like a weird guy. Like I can drink energy drink to finish my work and I'll go to sleep. And I have no problem sleeping. Like if anything, sleeping, I don't like sleeping, so I don't like to go to bed. You know, like I think the thought of going to bed, like my blood pressure goes up. I'm sure if I had a monitor and I have to think about, you know, like the two things I do not like.
I know. This guy doesn't, Craig doesn't like sleep or food. Which is the weirdest combination of things not to like ever I've ever heard. I love both, by the way.
Listen, we're talking about biohacking, right? We're talking about biohacking. Here's my biohacking that I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for when someone come out with like a tablet that you just pop up in your mouth, take some water, and you are full for the day. There's no food to think about. There's no the hassle of having to like eat. Like you sorted. And then
I'm gonna check. Craig doesn't go to fancy restaurants, but he's married to my sister, so I'm gonna force. I'll just tell my sister we're gonna start going. We're gonna start going. You know, on double dates without the kids.
Yeah.
To all these fancy just restaurants, and then he'll start. You'll get there sooner or later.
No, for the occasion, like I can go for meals, but it's more social for me. Yeah. Like I go for meals more for social.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like, you see, work dinners. I didn't attend most of them because sometimes there was more I didn't like about it. Sometimes it's just I'm having to mingle with everyone. I might have 3 or 4 of the people in that work are my friends. The rest I don't really F with them, so it's just like, and then I don't really like. It's not like I'm going there for food or anything. Right. I'm going there for social. You know what I mean?
Well, those kind of events aren't really for food. You don't go there for food.
Yeah, but at the same time, like the social is dead anyway.
Right.
You know, because if you are not, because the other 3 or 4 people you already go for meals with them anyway outside work. You know, they are your friends, so you probably once every 2 weeks. You know, you meet up for some to eat and catch up. So now it's like you and them and then another 20 other people that like 10 of them really don't
really matter
mean anything to you, or you don't really. So that sort of like you're starting to think, oh, do I really need to do this? But usually having to take like the kids and my wife for something to eat, I don't mind that because there's pleasure I get from that. Because if we go to a restaurant and they're eating and my kids are loving life and you can see that they're loving their I like that. I take so much joy from them being happy to do that. But would would I be someone who, like, for example, like when I was going to China, I didn't eat fancy. I literally pinpoint one or two things I can eat, and I just repeated the same thing over and over again. I just literally repeated this the whole time I think I was there, 2 weeks? Yeah. I did exactly the same thing for 2 weeks. And a few times I changed states, like I changed like towns, like I moved, like at one point I moved from Guangzhou to Yiwu. And I got there and I just try and figure out like where is the simplest thing I can find that is easy for me to eat, and I found that and I just repeated that because there was I didn't really enjoy the experience or anything like that with eating. See, so that's my biohacking.
Oh, that's horrible. I'm the kind of guy who would, if I went to China, I would probably try that almost every restaurant. From like from the guy on the side of the street to like the super high end, because I love the food too. But my biohack, if you get me a pill that I don't have to sleep, take my money. Take my money. If I could just get stuff done, I'll take my money.
Yeah.
Take all of it.
Then you'll be good. You'll be getting 24 hours a day.
Oh, beautiful. That we love.
You know what? This is a segue. When I was in China, there was restaurants, right? Where if it's like a fish type of restaurant, you get to the door, and then there's like a line of fish tanks.
And you pick fish. What you want to eat.
And there's like ugly fishes. A lot of ugly fish in the fish tanks. You know them fish you see like with like weird eyes and
the big puppet eyes.
And then you and then you point, you're like, that one. And then they take your table and everything. Then people go sit down.
And they go slaughter it in the back. Imagine that in the UK.
No way. That wouldn't work here.
That's crazy.
No chance. Do you know, like when I saw it, I kept seeing like, I think the first maybe 5-6 days, I thought they have fish tank. It's just a fish tank, like like a fish tank. I didn't realize it was like they're in line to be
slaughtered.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. And then I met a guy like in my hotel, and he is from, you know what, I think I have his number. This guy, I need to contact him. He told me he will link me up with many things. He's from London somewhere, but he's like half Chinese and half English. And he said to me, we're talking about something. I said to him, like, how come there's many fish tanks around this? And he said to me, oh yeah, the guys, like, he started like explaining to me, like, that that's what it's there for. You know, you pick your fish and then
that's it.
You know, they put it down for
you. They take it to the back. Fair enough. Right, I think my camera's messed up here, so we'll wrap it up there anyway. 58 minutes. Another good pod.
No worries, people.
Right. Until next time. See you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.